Okay.
Recording in progress.
Oh, you want me to click on it? Okie dokie, you should be good to go, Ryan.
You can send that.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Ryan.
Either Sharon. No problem at all. I was just giving you a real quick call because I noticed that student trying to set their show sold about a month ago. It looks like it's for sale by owner, and I think it's Santa or Grand Oaks. Yeah, can you hear me? It's listed on Zillow as for sale by owner. Okay. Oh, could be. Yeah, it could be for sure. It's a yeah. Let me tell you interesting. Interesting. There's another house right in that neighborhood that's also set up as a for sale by owner. I'll send you the phone number just to see if it matches the listing in Zillow. And obviously, if that's not one of your clients' phone numbers, then it's definitely a scam. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Bye now. First, Bizbo scams. Right. How do I know if people are here? Oh, currently hosting somebody else's. Stay co-host. Oh, there we go. There's participants. Just us right now. This one more in here. Sounds like one of the homes. Okay, we're recording too, I think, right? Yeah. Recording these. All right, we're gonna get started here. Interesting. I wish I could try to do this both up here, because the notes are on one and not the other. Okay, yeah. That's what I've taught a few of these, so it's been a year. So is there anybody else that's been coming to these?
Billy sometimes and Mackenzie sometimes,
Okay.
as far as coming in. And then Melinda is usually, sometimes she shows up on Zoom.
Okay. Melinda Coates?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's do, and what's your name?
I'm Michael.
Michael, what's your last name?
Kukula.
How do you,
P as in Peter, UKAL.
say that one more time?
P as in Peter, UKAL.
One of those people that have to like see the name, and you've got your name tag on, which is great. You just don't have that creative eyesight.
I'm sitting too far away for it.
Yeah, you can grab some water here in a minute. Okay, well, yeah, let's jump into it and we'll see how far we get. I think this is for me, one of the most important class, one of the most important skills, in my opinion, is to be able to have your appointment with buyers. And so, let me give a quick background about myself. I've been licensed for about 6 years, and I started about 5.5 years ago. It's close to 6. And so I came in as a buyer's agent on a team. So my name is Ryan Long, and I think I said that right. I don't know. I'm a little scatterbrained. Let me take a deep breath.
Good thing.
But yeah, so yeah, I know I'm kind of talking to this because I feel like it's being recorded, but it's cool. Yeah, so I started like 6 years ago, and Melinda is coming in here, and hey, Melinda. And so yeah, I got my start and came in as a buyer's agent on a team, and so I have like that role more than listings. And so I still skew, even though the last couple of years I've done some listings, a handful, well, more than a handful, but I still, it's like my comfort is definitely with buyers. And so that's been, I don't know, probably have 80 closings. And then I also served as our lead buyer's agent, and we've had between 2 and 7 other agents kind of that I've mentored as we've gone along. And so
When you say 80, is that a year?
I wish.
You'd be like, wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think I hit 100 late last year. So I'm probably closer to 100 and 110 of my own, like what I consider my transactions. And I probably helped at least other buyers agents on another 100 more. And so, I am,
That's still 15 years.
what's that?
It's 15 a year. That's not.
Yeah, I think I've been, well, I haven't counted this year really. I'm still like 22 a year. So it's kind of what seems to be my average. Yeah. This year I'm down a little bit, but the dollar amounts are up as I've gotten to be pickier about clients and get more referrals and repeat clients. So that's always a lot of fun. So anyway, yeah, was on the team and still am and still mentoring a couple of our buyers agents as well. So I do get a lot of buyer questions. Michael, since I know Melinda pretty well, but can you tell me your experience when you got licensed and if you've had any buyer consults and like where you are with any of that or transactions?
So I actually got my license in Oregon in February, down in Medford, and then I moved up here in beginning of June.
Okay. So and when did you do any transactions or did you start doing much down in
So
you said Roseburg or
yeah,
Medford? Or did you know you were moving and you're like, well, it doesn't make sense to do
well,
that?
I started out there, but it was going a little slow, and so I came up here because I've got family that live up here. I moved to Oregon to be closer to family, but I didn't want to be too close, kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah,
You're getting a little upper Midwest or Canadian.
so I am originally from Canada,
Okay.
Winnipeg. So.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So, and have you taken any either listings or buyer listings yet? I know
Not
you're
since
brand new. Perfect. So this is all gonna, I just want to, know where to start. And so I'm gonna direct more of this to you and start really ground level. Have you had a chance to meet with a buyer face to face in like a consultation type of environment? Or I'm assuming you might have shown some homes and that kind of thing, but have you had
So
kind of a formal buyer consult?
in Medford, I did actually have a couple that I did meet with and show houses to.
Okay. So the concept's not foreign or anything like that.
No,
And
I've been in sales forever.
okay. What's your main
New construction.
new construction? Okay.
I worked for production builders in Arizona.
So were you licensed down there?
I was licensed.
Okay. So you're not new to
Okay,
real
so
estate.
yeah, we should probably start from the beginning. This is my fault. I do this to people. I shouldn't. I've been licensed real estate agent for 12 years.
Okay.
But primarily I don't have a traditional real estate background.
Yeah. That's with production builders, people are coming to you and it's not as much about relationship, probably. It's more about
And then before that, I worked with investors, basically managing fix and flip.
Oh, okay.
So I would find them, we'd do them, and then they had another guy that would list them out.
And so what you were mainly managing the construction?
I was just finding the properties and then managing. I would find properties, I would price it out, I would manage the rehab, and they would hand it over to the other guy.
Okay. Wow. Why were you doing it for other people?
Yeah, that's always been.
It sounds like you're doing pretty much all the work on that.
Well, to be frank, because they had.
Yeah.
That's what it really came down to.
Yeah.
And they,
Did you do a handful, a dozen, 50?
So back, I did about 15 for them 1 year, in a year, basically. I was handling I handled 15 1 year.
Wow.
I started out doing it. So since you're asking, my history is I started out as a buyer's agent on a team. One of the people I got when I was on that team was an investor.
Mhm.
I found a property, we did it. The guy who was running the team was like, he saw the deal, he's like, I need you to come into my office. I'm like, He's like, okay, he said, I've been trying to get investors to work with me. He's like, how did you do this? I'm like, well, really not that hard. It's all numbers.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day. And so he's like, so if I introduce you to some people, you can do this. I'm like, all day long. And I'm like, I have a system. It's easy. I said, the only thing that's ever stopped me doing myself is I can't get the money.
Gotcha.
And so he's like, okay, so he introduced me to this guy. And this guy's like, I just wanted you to do it for me. Leave everybody else behind.
Oh, really?
He's like,
You're like, well, if you do that many of them, I guess that
and
makes
he's like, and his appetite was for more. We just couldn't get them. That was the problem.
So were you acting then as a buyer's agent as well for him?
Yes, for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the team listed him on the other side.
Basically, my pay scale was I got the buy side commission 50% working on the team, and then I got 20% of profit on every flip we did.
Wow.
I had a really good year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And then my team, the guy who was running the team I was working for, he's like, I think you're making too much money because you don't seem to be working that hard. Because I made it look easy.
right.
I'm not gonna lie, I did.
I
And
can't
that's the
imagine,
first mistake. Never make it look easy.
I can't imagine trying to manage 15 flips in a year.
And so he's like, and he basically did. He told me, he said, so I think we need to rework our arrangement. And at that time, I'm thinking, well, by now I've got my chops. I should be able to just go off on my own now. So I was like, tell you what, I'll make this easy for you. I quit. And so then I started trying to, but because I didn't have the financial and I didn't have the relationships with the right lenders. So then because I need to eat, I went to work for new construction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my history.
Gotcha.
Sorry to take so much time.
No, I've got some ideas that we'll work out later on about how we can work together on some stuff.
We're fine.
Because there's a lot of stuff in here. You've heard some of it. I think Melinda's heard a lot of it, and I know Billy's done a few. I think he's done a few more than a few transactions now. So none of this is going to be new. So knowing that, I don't need to go. Some part I'll choose where to go into detail to save time here. So
I was gonna try to make you do the whole lot.
yeah. Start really well. We'll go through this. We'll go through the slides. So 13 sessions in, right?
No.
And make sure that this is sure. There we go. Okay, so we're 13 sessions in. Today's one the buyer talking about really now that you get your hooks around somebody, how do we make them our client and get them to the finish line with the deal? So we've turned that lead, gone from a met to a prospect to a lead to a client. That's where I put this on. Do not disturb. Maybe it did. Okay, now it's on do not disturb. That shouldn't happen again. Okay. So yeah. So we've gone through all that, but now we're getting the person and getting those buyers in front of us. So we're gonna talk about that. We're really getting to the fourth stage here, as you can see in our chart, the transaction stage. Let's see here. So anything important on that slide? No. Nothing important on that slide. All right, so everything going up to today has pretty much been about getting the appointment and how to get there. And so one of the terms that Keller Williams uses sometimes, or you see it in other training programs too, is talking about A buyers. In command, I think you can tag them different ways, but in our database we call them hot buyers. Really somebody that's that you're showing properties that is ready when they've got the financing and they're ready to go. They're not just kind of kicking the tires and looking around and in about 3 months I need to get this job and do this, to do this, to do this, to, go. So once we have those A buyers, it's all about just face-to-face connection, face-to-face contact. If you have to, and they're out of state and moving to the area, you jump on a Zoom call, but you really need that FaceTime. The phone just doesn't cut it. And it's so much better in person. So anytime you can get in front of somebody, it's so important. So it's, they're not, there's several stages of being your client, but I've found that a lot of times I've had significant conversations over a year or 2 years with somebody, but they've gone to work with somebody else, and I realized they never had that face-to-face contact when I could have made that happen. So all about getting the appointment, all about focusing most of your time working with A buyers. Let's see. Today, we want to identify a qualified A buyer, follow up with an appointment. Number 2, apply approaches to request an appointment from an A buyer. There's actually some pretty good stuff in there. Demonstrate skill in handling buyers' reluctance to committing to you. And then number 4, explain the buyer consultation and agreement. So that's the main things we're going over today. And so, as Gary said, the right approach is close for a meeting. The right approach is to close for a meeting is the only approach. Just ask for it. Let's do that with the emphasis on the wrong syllable. The right approach to close for meeting is the only approach. Just ask for it. Okay, there we go. That makes more sense. I was putting a pause where there shouldn't be a pause. So A buyers, we started talking about that. You've seen this chart. We know what A buyers are. Think there's anything else to really say about A buyers. Yeah. Okay. There's lots of charts and graphs. This is a great one, but I don't think it really applies that much to today. This one's a great one. We're at step 3 of working with a buyer, so we're still pretty early in the process. But again, this is, in my opinion, one of the most important. They're all, but you really need to do this because I've done a lot of times. We get leads through other systems, we buy Zillow leads and leads through other systems. And sometimes somebody calls up or referral and says, "Hey, I want to go see this house." And if you just become a Pop-Tart agent, just show it to them without meeting them beforehand. Again, it's just, you don't get to display some of your knowledge and background, and you just don't make that same connection. And so again, until you really sit down with somebody and go through some of this, they're not your client as much as you might think in your head that they're your client. All right. So getting the appointment, again, this is some good stuff in here. We know it's all about speed to lead. I'm sure you've heard about that. And there's so many stats thrown around that, and it's true. If somebody doesn't get a response and they're looking at something on Zillow or, on command, or you've got a Facebook ad, and, they come through, they don't get a response right away. And they're one of the 2% that are serious buyers clicking on things on Facebook ads. They're gonna find the next agent. So getting that response is so important. There's been times that, if a friend gives me a referral and, it takes an hour to get back to them or a day. And by then they've, moved on to somebody else. Oh yeah, we already saw it. Blah, blah, blah. So I've missed out on more transactions than I've closed, I'm sure, just by not being available or not being quick enough to speed the leads. So that's part of it. Let's see here. Valid, complete contact, save it to command, determine their motivations so you can speak to it. And so one of the best ways to do that was just with a lot of why questions and taking, trying to go 3 deep. Have you heard that, method? Being in sales for a long time, I'm sure. But yeah, what brings you to the area? Okay, but why Corvallis? Why Albany? What's going on, and really asking for their time frame too. That's a big part of motivate. That's kind of the bigger part of motivation. It helps us categorize, especially with the CRMs, command, and everything else, how we're going to follow up with them. For this thing. So yeah, so it's so important. Have you heard of LP Mama?
I have actually.
Okay. Melinda, I taught it in team huddles in years past, that sort of thing. But that's really a good one that's really a great framework to go through. And do you think you can get them all?
Location, I cannot remember the P.
I think the first P is price range.
Yeah, that was it. And then motivation, area, and then I can't remember it too.
Let's see. So I think the first one's location. That's kind of the easiest one to talk about. Oh yeah, and because you can get into a little bit of family dynamics. Oh, are you looking to be in any particular school district, or are you trying to be close to other family? So yeah, location, price, motivation. The next one is agent. Have you seen? And I go through a lot of times I don't ask it directly. So have you seen any house you like? Have you been going through any? Have you seen, especially like internet leads and that kind of thing to suss that out. And then if they say, yeah, we've been looking, and you ask more specific questions, of course, and ask them if they're working with you, because we're not wasting our time working with people that are working with others. Some investors. Mortgage and appointment. So it really is a great framework to go through there, and script practicing that is just that's a good use of everyone's time, in my opinion. So we won't do that today because that can take the whole session. So let's see here. Questions on that?
So do you actually use the LP Mama?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what most conversations are, what caught your attention on that house? And, are you just looking at this house, or others caught your attention? What area are you looking at? So those are some of my intro, or, if it's somebody that's, new to me, this is my first time talking to them, and they sound like they're a buyer. That's my first part of my question. Price, I don't always ask up front. If they're asking about a specific property, it's kind of obvious to me. I don't, until I get to know somebody, I'm not as quick to talk about financing and price. I usually kind of push those ones a little further down. Mm-hmm. But hey, oh yeah, this one's listed for $650. How does that fit in your price range? Is a good way to go for that. Let's see. What price range are you most comfortable with? Ideally, where are you going to be? So that's a couple good ones there. Motivation. Again, motivation is really about asking time frame, and so a lot of times that comes up in the conversation already. But it's really a good question to ask is, hey, if the perfect home came on the market tomorrow, would you be ready to make an offer? And that gets them thinking too. It's actually kind of that leading question of, oh yeah, if a good home comes on and now their brains clicked over to buy, I should get ready. I really do need to have my financing in order, all those kind of things. So let's see. Agent, I was telling you, I kind of asked if they've been looking at any properties already. And then ask about agent, I asked the name. That's always, oh, oh yeah, we're working with an agent. Oh, really? Yeah, great. Who are you working with? And if it's an AW agent, I always back, oh man, Michael's so awesome. I know he's got you covered, but yeah. Well, great. You're in great hands, and that's usually what I'll say there. With if it's an agent that I know that's at another office, depending on the situation, half the time I ask them if they have a written agreement. Half the time I just back off, kind of thing. Sometimes it's the person. Sometimes I guess it probably does have a lot to do with the other agent, how much I respect them.
Yeah, I get that. That's fair.
And what I think they would do on the other side. But oh great, oh yeah, I've been, XYZ's been in the industry for quite a while. This, I'm sure they're helping you out, or actually I usually say, half the time they go, oh, gosh, it's I forget his name.
Yeah.
What is it? It's is it John or Sam? And then you have an in, right? If they don't know their name, then you still got an in. If they know the name right away, then again, more than half the time I'm back out right away. But if they're really asking for advice already in this conversation or not sounding like they're getting support, I say, oh, did you have to sign it? Did you sign a buyer broker agreement, or did you sign anything with that person? So, and then of course back off right away if you hear anything. Oh yeah, we signed this or did this already. So, yeah. All right, well, great. Anyway, financing, you can always joke about, kind of going the joking method's good, I think, and just saying, hey, are you buying cash? Somebody's saying, oh yeah, how many houses are you buying today? The thing is, that's another, I'm interested in buying a house. So just one, or it's with you, one investor can buy 15. And yeah, so I usually ask, are you planning to pay cash or get financing? And then I noticed before I used to start doing education, and LP Mama isn't the time to do education. It's really time to get as much fact finding as possible. And every time they answer something, oh, great. Yeah, perfect. Wonderful. I just keep giving affirmations. But I've found myself in the past, once you get to financing, going into education. And that's not the way to go. Hey. But you figure out if they're pre-approved, what bank, what lender, if you can, really try and figure out the lender's name, and if it's online or a bank, and if they really have a local representative, or if it's US Bank or Bank of America. I always ask those, are you working at a call center or somebody local? Because that determines the quality of service that they're going to get and that we're going to get. Let's see. And then I think we're through most of it. Appointment then, and we're going to get into this right here, but really, I will get into it, but I like as the appointment. Well, sounds like, you're looking right away, or you're just starting your search, and I think it would be really good for you. I go for a prescriptive approach, I would call it, and always whatever. If they're a decent buyer or somebody that I think I want to work with, the solution or the prescription to it is an appointment. So I always, based on what you just told me that you're looking to buy in, 2 to 3 months and this and that, the best thing for us to do is to sit down and have a conversation so that we can get you ready. So in 3 months, when you're there, we can be ready to pounce. Or so again, that's the LP Mama just gives you so much information that it's easy to prescribe the appointment. So we've got 7 other close to appointment tactics. How do you ask for a buyer appointment? You've seen this list of show the benefits, take back, close, negative, positive, give them what they're looking for, trial, close, assumptive?
I just tell them that I have a system to help people, educate them on really digging down into what their whys are, what they want in a house, and that just a 30-minute appointment is all I need to kind of why, how, my process, how hard I work for them.
Okay, so you're kind of saying you're saying the benefit to them is that it's going to help them narrow down what house they.
Because you have a wife who wants a nice kitchen, you have a husband who wants a shop, so you sit them down and have them write out their top 3 things for both of them, and then you put them together and have them have a conversation.
So it sounds like your number one, show the benefit. The benefit is that you're going to have a much more directed search after meeting with
Also, show them the process. The process changes. I've been in the business 6 years. It's already changed in 6 years. They have maybe haven't bought a house in 10 years.
Yeah.
So maybe it's changed on them. I saw you.
Like it. So I've got some examples in here of different ways, but I think show the benefit is probably one of the biggest things that most agents use. So what would be, anybody can chime in here that's listening in, but anybody have some ideas of the benefits? We just heard a couple from Joel. Number one is help you have a more directed search, and show you about the market is a big thing. So he was talking about how the market's changed, and so most people haven't bought a house in 7-10 years or whatever, and so you want to educate them on the market. So that's another benefit. What are some of the other benefits? Do you have any benefits that you could think of that you might say, yeah, it's going to be hey, let's come into the office because what would be a benefit to them? Do you have any other ideas, Mike?
Well, my big one on that has always been for showing the benefit is, basically, it's been a while since I've used it, so I'm not going to get quite right, but basically, in order to save you some frustration and a lot of time, it's probably going to be best if we take a few minutes to sit down. We spend 30 minutes now, it's going to save us days.
Yes, and that's actually almost word for word what they've got in here. Show the benefit. Their example of that is if spending 30 minutes with me could save you hours of your time and thousands of dollars in your home search, would that be a benefit to you? So thousands of dollars, saving money, saving time. So that's so it's asking them there. Saving time, saving money are really some great ones to get with, I think. And again, if they're 3 to 6 months off, I'm talking about, hey, we want to be homes are selling, it's easy when homes are selling fast. And, one of the other things that I do a lot is, a lot of times people are asking about homes that are already under contract. And so, oh yeah, you missed out on this one. But gosh, homes are still selling really fast. I know the media says things have slowed down, but gosh, they're still selling really fast. The best thing, what I think would be helpful for you is to help me understand and really dig in on your criteria. That way, when I see homes coming soon, or as they hit the market, I can make sure you see them or you're aware of them. So that's another benefit that I talk about a lot is the fact that, coming soon. And if I really have that deep understanding, and I can get those to them. All right, we talked enough about that one. Take back clothes. So number 2, I've enjoyed talking with you. To be honest, I don't know whether I can be of help to you or not. However, I'd be honored if we could meet to find out. How about we meet tomorrow? So you've taken something away. I don't know if it'd be good or not. So you put it out there and take it back. I do kind of use this sometimes in appointments a little bit, hey, or in the conversation too, every once in a while. Hey, I want to see if we'd be a good fit working together. I don't know if we want to or not, but the best way to determine that is sitting down and meeting. So those are 2. Any other examples from the peanut gallery on a take back example? We'll keep going. Negative, positive. This is a way of backing into appointments to close. Would you be offended if I asked if we could meet to go over all this in a little bit more detail? I'm free tomorrow. What time works for you? Would you be offended if I asked you if we can meet to go over this in a little bit more detail? So it's kind of like they said, you're backing into it, and nobody wants to offend somebody else, and so it's kind of like, well, yeah, I'm not offended that you asked, but and then you kind of assume that as long as they're not offended by that question, you get to keep going forward. So let's see here. Give them what they're looking for. Quickly pique the buyer's interest by giving them what they're looking for, information on interesting comparable properties. I guess this is also that closely tied to benefits, but yes, let's meet at the office. I can give you specific details about that property and let you know about similar properties also for sale. What time works for you? Great, see you then. So again, let you know about similar properties for sale. I insert similar or coming soon homes. Trial close, testing the waters. You should find out whether you and the client generally agree. So again, it's kind of testing the waters. So their example is, can you see how receiving a list of all the new homes on the market in your price range would help your home search? Great, let's meet. So you want to ask a question that they're going to say yes to, and so that's part of that trial close is if you can ask them questions along the way where they're saying yes, 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 and then get in that habit, and you're expecting them to keep saying yes. Tie downs are phrases that ask for confirmation. Expressions like "Wouldn't that be great?" or forming questions with "Can't you?" "Isn't you?" "Wouldn't you?" ask for agreement and get the customer into a pattern of saying yes. Oh, that's what I just was saying. I was ahead of myself. Okay. So, but that ties pretty closely to the assumptive close. Like it was the assumptive close. We didn't talk about assumptive close, did we? That's the line. Assumptive close assumes the close prevents them from saying no. It sounds like we should meet. I'm available most times this week. So what works best for you? Great, see you then. So this is another one that I use fairly often if it's a very positive conversation, and it's a referral from a friend. It's usually the assumptive close. Oh yeah, well my process is to sit down and see if we should meet together. So let's do that as a first step. And I usually go over X, Y, and Z. Our afternoons or mornings usually better for you. I can do early evening. So that's also my approach, is to ask what times of days are best for them and have my calendar up so I can try and plug them in. And I also notice that it's really important to get them in front of you within 2 to 3 days. I mean, depending on the situation, but a lot of times, the longer out you schedule, the more likely they are to no show, to cancel, all those other things. So if you can do it today or tomorrow, try and do it today or tomorrow. It seems like in my head, when I first started, I was always like, well, that's going to make me seem too eager to be like, hey, I can come over right now. But I mean, in some ways you want to say, well, it sounds like this is important to you. So let's jump on this, why don't we meet at 5 p.m. today? That's not a bad thing. Don't worry about that and make it sound too eager. So those are some of my methods. Just thinking through how I don't really like the questions of what time works for you. I like, again, along with the assumptive close, a lot of times it sounds like we should meet. Our afternoons or evenings usually better for you, and you can kind of go into that and really start narrowing down the time so that you're not asking, should we meet? It's when should we meet, right? Do you have any thoughts or ideas on any of these that you really liked or kind of used?
Well, yeah, with like you said, with the assumptive close, that's what I like too. Is it's just basically, yeah, no. So thinking we need to meet. I'm good. I've got time on Friday. Does that sound good to you? Don't. If you ask people if they want to, then you got 50-50 shot. But if you just kind of roll into it, a lot of times it, like you said, especially if the conversation's gone good, they're just going to automatically be like, well, no, I can't do Friday, but I'm available. Oh, cool. I just happen to be available that day too.
Right. Yeah, I love it. All right. So our objections. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on this slide. 5-step system in your participant guide. It has a few things. First, we're asking questions. So if somebody says, well, no, I can't meet, do you stop there? No, you try and figure out what it is, because maybe they're saying no because Friday doesn't work for them. Maybe they're saying no because they don't want to meet. Maybe they're saying no because they've got an agent, their mom's an agent. So you need to figure out what's going on. So we ask questions, investigate. Tell me more about why Tell me more, help me understand, are good lead-ins to those investigation questions. Number two, empathize. Oh, I certainly, yeah, understand how you feel. You know, you just took the dog to the vet and it's cost you $2,000, so they want your down payment money. Gosh, yeah, I can see how your priorities are with your dog. Empathize, identify the real issue, restate. So what I think I heard you say is, you know, with your dog having the issues, you know, you lost some money that you were planning for the down payment. So is that right? And so you ask for confirmation, offer a solution. Well, again, offering a solution might be saying, you know, a lot of times I have these conversations 6 to 12 months, sometimes even 18 months before it might really start looking, because there's a lot of things you can do to prepare now to give you saving money in the future, whether it's improving your credit or other things. And so again, you're offering a solution and urgent agreement. So you ask for that again. So that's about it here. Any thoughts on that one? Question. Cover some objections at a high level and substitute or add objections that are currently prevalent in your market. Buyer chooses to look on their own. So we get this a lot, especially on internet leads. Oh yeah, I'm just looking around right now. I'm going to look around on my own. So I understand here are a few things to consider. It can be a very time-consuming process. With my access to the MLS and my real estate contacts, I can search all available properties for you and show you the best ones based on your needs, saving you a lot of time and headache. Yeah. I like the thought with clients right now, seeing homes a lot of times selling fast, or you know, with low inventory, there's just not a lot of options. It's really it seems like a pretty good cherry to talk about coming soon.
By the time you find it, it's already gone.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I had more than one call where it went on the market under contract. Well, yeah, it was in a coming soon status, and somebody was able to make an offer then. Buyer relies on searching online. And so here's another objection. Here's another response to that. Reality is that many times homes are advertised online may not be available anymore, and how a property appears online is not the same as seeing it in person, which you'll need a licensed agent for. Find a house is the fun part, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Again, if it's somebody that's an online lead or a first-time buyer, you know, you're going to try and figure out that LP mama, and usually that the mortgage question kind of gives you should start to understand by their reaction to that question whether they're a very viable buyer or not. A lot of times they just, after LP mama, will send them to the lender first before I want to do a buyer consult. Or yeah, and again, that's that prescriptive approach. Okay, so you haven't talked to the lender yet. You know that your credit score needs some more. Well, hey, my awesome lender Jess has this credit building program, and she reviews, and so while it may not be possible right now because you've got a 450 credit score, they've got some programs that'll get you up to that 580, 628 that you need to buy a house. And so the sooner you talk to her, the sooner you can start that program and get into a house. You know, so that's another pause. Aha. Anything else you got to add to that?
Oh, we're rolling along. Doing good.
Okay. There's a lot to this section, so I'm trying here. Buyer consultation preparation checklist. Confirm. So as part of that, as part of your conversation, it's going to be, yeah, well, let's meet at the office. It's always best to meet at the office. Again, we're making ourselves be the professional. Second is their house. Even if it's a rental, I haven't really gone to people's rentals that often, but I suggest against meeting at a coffee shop or other places, because again, we're professionals, just like an attorney, CPA, and those people don't go meet you for coffee in general. So again, it just makes you look more professional, and especially with our great offices like Corvallis and Albany, it's really nice to bring those people in and see that it's a real established place to get that credibility behind you. So we're confirming appointment date and time. I like the day before to shoot a text message sometimes. Hey, just checking in. I'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Here's our link to our office address, it's in the Google Maps link. Sure, all decision makers attend. Hopefully during LP Mama, you can, my question is, a lot of times I hear, well, we are doing this or we are doing that. And so I just say during LP Mama, a lot of times, oh, I heard you say we, who are you searching with? Or, my dad's joke is, oh, you got a frog in your pocket. Anyway,
Yeah,
frog in your pocket? Who's this we?
Yeah.
Or if somebody's in the background, it's like, oh, no, oh, hi, I hear somebody in the background. I'm Ryan, and what's your name? And I always do that. So, yeah, it can certainly be a waste. Not all decision makers attend, and so I would do everything you can to do that. Otherwise, it's not be worth your time. And a lot of times I do, they come in and figure that out there. There's been a couple times where, one of the decision and right away you can hear them start to defer. Well, I don't know what my husband would say about that or whatever. My husband might have a different opinion, or my wife might have a different opinion. She loves a big kitchen and a gas stove. You're going to get some of those things, and that's when it's like, well, we really need both of you here. We can't figure out what kind of house. So, and that's really, again, this should be a preparation. So it's make sure that they're there and complete your buyer's guide. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Prepare the meeting space, review the lead sheet. I think they're just saying, review your notice in command as far as what they've been looking at, what they've been, what your conversations have been like with them. Top 10 service areas of the buyer value proposition. Needs analysis, pre-qualification, neighborhood information, home search, make an offer, negotiating to buy, vendor coordination, pre-close preparation, closing, and post-closing. So we do have, I think this matches pretty closely to buying your first home book that we have at Keller Williams. I've seen them around, but they're for sale too if you ever want to buy them and give them out to people. There's also a free online slide deck for doing first time buyer seminars. And so this matches that. There's a nice graphic. I don't know if the graphic's not on here. So, so this matches that. And I've got a slightly different step-by-step method that's got kind of 3 blocks, kind of the preparation, the searching, and the under contract. And so that's my process in going through and talking to people. So I have that out and ready to go for my buyer consult, which we'll go into here in just a second. Okay. So the office has these black folders. I think they might charge a couple bucks for them, but they already come pre set up with a few things. How you want to put this together is totally up to you. There's a few things that this is mostly the compliance stuff that we kind of want to go through, and I've mostly set things up in an order that makes sense for me. But I usually don't even open this. I'll pull things out. I've got my buyer questionnaire. And so you might, if you want something to direct you, I did the white pad or yellow pad for legal pad for so long that it's hard for me to fill this out. I never got used to it. But if you need a good way, and I wish I had this at first because it's got some good questions. It reminds you to ask about, what they want per yard and what their it's just good prompting questions to help narrow you down on what they're really looking for. One question I like with that is, you know, if you could, they're moving from out of the area, if you could move your house now, if you could move your current house to Albany, would you do that? And
It's like-
yes or no, and you know, what would you change about it? So that's always kind of a fun one to do. Have them think about their current living situation, what they would change about it. Fire guide contest. So there's in command with the designs, there's a lot of templates for these. So they want me to show a few of them off, but this is a list of things that you could certainly put into your presentation, your folder. I think this is too much, but if you were gonna do a binder and have some things, I could see this being a buyer guide that you're handing them to take home. This could all be a good idea. So buyer's guide, there's a customizable option in command. So they're going to show you a few. I'll just kind of scroll through these. Table of contents, your needs, preference profile, your home wish list. Actually, I just thought of something. When I'm confirming the appointment or when I'm on the phone with them and saying, hey, you know, we're gonna meet tomorrow at 4. I encourage you to say, hey, if you can, make a list of 3 to 5 must-haves for your home and 3 to 5 things that you want to have. And you know, that's also a good way to kind of lead into the confirmation with their spouse if they're talking about we and asking, you know, who else is making the decision. So I like that. That helps them it gives them a little bit of homework, but nothing too overwhelming, and it helps direct the conversation into wish list. So here's some, there's some okay options for questions. Neighborhood insights. I don't think we need in Ralston, Albany, and Lebanon. We don't really have that much of that, being smaller communities. Home buying works. So again, this is that 10-step program. They've got this all lined out, and so this could be a good template to actually go through a buyer consult and start going through things. A little bit about financing, value proposition. There's some places where you can put in your own numbers. So again, this is an example of a packet. I've got a much more simpler one with just what we need in it. Just gonna one thing here. Let's see if I can find. Okay, so the rest of today, we're trying to get through conducting the buyer consult and getting the signed buyer agreement. So we're going to go through those 2 things here in just a minute. So they're kind of talking about this as the preparation. So we're going to dive into what we're actually going to do. The thing I was thinking about as a pre-step as well. There's been some people that have that buyer questionnaire, and like when they walk in the office, you can ask the DFI, whoever's front desk, to, hey, can you hand this to them and let them know I'll be out in 3 minutes and start filling this out, because you can get, then it's good that they start filling it out with their information, and you're running a minute or 2 behind. And people are used to that when they go to the doctor, when they go to the dentist, that they have to do all that stuff. So so it's a good system. I wish I did that. I don't do that, but I like that idea. Let's take like a 3 to 5 minute break,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna get 1 or 2 things pulled up and prepared. You grab some water.
Perfect, I can make another fucking coffee.
Yeah. It had a cup of coffee today. Should probably have one.
I try to keep it down to 2 pots. What's up?
How about you?
Oh, same here, just living the dream.
Yeah. Back. Apparently it was the former owner's advertisement before they listed with an agent. Have you gotten to deal with FISBOs very much?
I'm actually just starting to compile lists now. Something it was part of my business plan, but it wasn't what I was going to start with first.
Uh-huh.
Down.
Was it part of your business plan when you were in Arizona, you mean, or part of your business plan for up here?
Up here.
Yeah, okay.
Arizona didn't need to.
Yeah.
And then back when I was doing resale, there was so much inventory because it was 12 years ago. That was right after, well, during and the crash. So, I mean, that's why I became a buyer's agent. There's no point in becoming a listing agent because the banks were listing everything. So I got good at the REO market.
Yeah.
And figuring out how that all, it's just like somebody asked me one time, they're like, why I didn't do foreclosures back then, like go help people at the courthouse steps. I'm like, why? Let the bank do all the work. Let them take it back. Let them get rid of the people. Let them get it cleaned out. Then we'll go in. We're still going to get a good deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because when you figure out how much it costs you to do all that, plus the lag time, is tell people that's the hardest part of figuring out your time frames. If there's people in that house, you have no idea when you're getting by with it.
Yeah.
A lot of cash for keys in those days.
Yeah. Well, actually, we can do this. I'm gonna share my buyer, some of my booklet here, and go through what I usually run through with people. But I think I need to share my screen. I need to connect to this Zoom. Make sure my volume's off and my mic's off. Hit myself in.
No, my plan when I first got here was to just majorly focus on open houses and door knocking. That has not quite worked. Now it's like, okay, I'm going to move to the next step. Keep doing this.
Let's show this up. Okay, now you're seeing my screen. Okay, so I'm gonna share my buyer consult. That's right. The other thing that I usually prep people for as they're coming into the appointment, or as I talked about the benefit, or what the buyer consultation is. You can call it whatever you want. Buyer consultation sounds really formal. So depending on what you're doing with people, sometimes it's more appropriate to, say meeting or our prep class or whatever you want to say for that. But I usually say both on the phone when I'm describing it and at the beginning of the meeting, which I'll show you in just a second. I say, I've got 3 goals for this meeting. Number 1 is make sure I really deeply understand what your home search looks like, or, understand what you're looking for. Number two is to give you some education on the market and what's going on in our current market. And number three, it's to quickly review the purchase process. But as a first-time buyer, you don't get to go into more depth. But I usually do say, hey, those are my three main goals. Again, that's understand what you're looking for, help you understand the market, and help you understand the process. And again, benefit to you is that we're going to save a lot of time and energy and frustration. So many times you don't do it, a real buyer consultation, and then down the road, they have no idea what's going on. And the transaction's a nightmare because they don't have any expectations of what was going on. So it's really nice to lay things out. So when I sit down, try and do a little chit chat or small talk for a minute, ask them some forward questions, and try and figure out, if there's hobbies, because you can play that out down the road. And so, Michael, do you want to role play with me? And it's a little easier for me to, instead of describing what I'm doing, just go through and do it. So, Michael, I really appreciate you coming in today. How's your day been?
My day's been going great.
Well, that's really good to hear. So you said you moved up from Medford, right? And how's that process been going? Are you liking all this area better than Southern Oregon, or what's your impression so far?
I do like some of the areas around here a lot better.
Mhm.
Their towns are a little smaller, and that takes a little bit getting used to.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, especially you said you're from Arizona before that. So yeah, compared to the Phoenix
Smaller
area,
and smaller.
smaller and smaller, huh? Well, there's still plenty of smaller towns if you're going into the hills that way or that way. So there's more room to go there. Well, and have you joined any clubs or organizations or found any great, hiking spots that you've been here? What's been your favorite thing?
Yeah, I've been so focused on work, I haven't had a chance to really do anything else.
That's too bad. And, and there I might, try and dive into the Ford just a little bit more, hey, when you're down in Oregon or Arizona, what did you do? So again, just a little bit of Ford. I try and really keep that to 3 to 5 minutes max, but it really sets the tone. And you can, you're trying to connect, and oh man, I love Medford. It's such a beautiful spot. We'd go to the Shakespeare Festival just in Ashland, but I always stayed in Medford. You just make that connection, and everybody loosens up just a little bit. So, well, that's so great to hear, Michael. So wonderful that you moved to the area and that you're looking for a home. What I'd like to do, I think I told you on the phone, I've got really 3 goals for our conversation today. Again, I found that it just helps the whole process so much more when we go through. Number one, understanding what you're looking for. So we'll talk about that. Understanding our market and what some of the things that we are doing in our market to make sure that offers are getting accepted. And number 3, discussing the home buying process. And on the phone before, you said you have purchased a home, correct? Before. When was the last time that you went through the process of buying?
20 years ago.
20 years ago. Great. A lot of things are going to be the same, but a lot of things have changed. So I'm going to hit a few highlights, discuss some of the costs that you might expect as well during that, so that you're really ready. And again, that's my goals. What questions? I hope you brought some questions today and want to learn as well. But what are the main things that you're hoping to get out of the meeting today?
I want to get a better understanding of the process, and I want to see what is available in my price range.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we'll pull up some homes and take a look as kind of the last step. Then perfect. And wonderful. We're going to get to that, and I'm really excited to understand really what you're looking for. Now, on the phone, you said you're kind of looking for a 3-2, mainly in North Albany, but tell me a little bit more about that. What do you imagine this house to be?
So essentially, I'd be needing something that's got a decent sized backyard, because my wife likes to do outdoor projects.
Okay.
And,
What kind of projects?
mostly gardening.
Mostly gardening. So sun is probably important, having a sunny backyard or, okay,
Exactly.
okay,
And also, it wouldn't be, well, either there needs to be space or I need a shed of some kind in the back for all the tools, supplies and all those kind of things.
okay. You keep that out of the garage.
I keep all that out of the garage.
Uh-huh.
So. Also, like to be in a place where I'm torn. I like HOAs, but there's parts of it I don't like about them because, you know, like my wife likes to have ducks in the backyard
Okay,
kind of thing. And also because we both will be working out of our home, we don't want people complaining if there's like two cars in the driveway.
okay. Luckily, most of the HOAs, I don't know about the ducks. There's certainly some that I know
They
don't
can
allow
be a little
poultry.
noisy.
But luckily, most of the HOAs in our area aren't bad. I hear very, very few complaints about any of the HOAs, but we'll dive in, and a lot of times it's fun to ask a neighbor while we're there as you're getting serious about a house. So, so everybody's concept of a garden's a little bit different. My dad's got a 3-acre garden. Most people, you know, have planter boxes about the size of these tables. What's your wife's? Are you looking for a half an acre, quarter acre, or normal size lot with the area to garden?
Well, I'm gonna need a large lot because my wife's idea of a garden is the size of this room.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I need a summer kitchen area because I barbecue, smoke, do chilies, things like that. And I do that all outside.
So either like a covered patio or a porch or space to build one.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, good. You mentioned having 2 cars, so I'm assuming that we need some driveway space and probably a 2-car garage. Is that what you're
For
generally
3,
for 3? Okay.
or 2, it's oversized.
Okay, wonderful. And you said 3-bedroom, 2-bath on the phone. Having, well, what square footage do you think you'd ideally be? What range would you be in?
So in my experience, square footage is not as important as layout.
Mhm.
Because I've been in 800 square foot houses that felt like 1,200 square feet. And I've been in 1,200 square foot houses that felt like 8. So it really will depend on the house. But if I had to go with this kind of a square footage, I'm in 12 right now and it's too small.
1,200 is too small. Okay, that's good to know. And so even if it had the perfect layout, 1,200 is probably on the low end of the scale. Then.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. And so, so is it just the 2 of you that are living in the house, or do you
Yes,
guys have?
Just
Okay.
the 2 of us.
Okay. Any pets?
Oh, yeah.
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 Uh,
I have 2 rabbits and 2 cats and 2 birds.
and are the birds indoor birds or are they the
They,
ducks?
no, they are indoor birds.
Okay.
It's a long story. My
Okay.
wife always wanted to be a farmer.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we'll find a spot for her to do some urban farming. All right. Well, good. Okay. And then,
Keyword is urban farming.
what's that?
Urban farming, no agriculture. I was born and raised on a farm, not doing that again.
Yeah, I'm the same way. All right. Well, and I probably asked some
I
more
see a hay
questions
bale,
about
I
the
break out in
farm.
the cold sweat.
What's that?
I see a hay bale, I break out in cold sweat.
I gotcha. Well, I'm gonna, cut this a little bit shorter than I normally would, but I'm gonna ask about interior. You cook outside, but what about inside? What's the most important thing to you? And sometimes I do start out if they're organized. Sometimes working with engineers and corrals and professors, they're gonna have a list. They have their must-haves and their want-to-haves. Sometimes they've really gone through that. You just go off of that, but dig in. I kept digging on the backyard, and so that really made me understand you as a person. And for me, it helps me visualize kind of what you're looking for, which is helpful for me as a visual person. So, and I tell people that, the better I got a concept of what you're looking for, blah blah blah. Okay, so wonderful. So I think we've got a really good concept of what you're looking for. That process. Try not side note, that process can go a really long time because people like talking about it. And sometimes this is probably not the right thing to do. But I sometimes just say, are there homes in the market that are like the one or really ideal, ones that really excite you right now? And that's really helpful for me as well, visualizing. And so a lot of times I do ask that, but I would try and put the search and that after you do your market, what's going on with the market and what's going on with in the buying process. So kind of leave that towards the end because you do that and all of a sudden 30 minutes of shock, like
Yeah.
totally. And once you start talking, their eyes glaze over. So while they're still kind of fresh, all right, so I've got a good idea. I'm gonna pull out, and I usually use we used to call them TMOs, total market overviews. Now the MLS has them, and have you looked in the MLS and seen the Domus analytics reports?
I have. I've also created my own.
You've got your own market overview. Okay. Well, I'm not going to go into a ton of depth on it.
But I'd love to see yours.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to pull up one of the Domus. We used to have them and we break them down by price range, but lately I haven't been making my own. We've just been going off of the Domus analytics ones. So that's what I use to review what's going on with the market and clients. This right one. Takes longer than screen sharing. Yeah, that is the right one. All right. We're looking at Albany today. We're in Albany. Okay. Great. And now we did say North Albany. In North Albany is kind of an interesting mix because it's got a slightly higher price point. And so I might pull up Corvallis too, or there's ways to select Benton County only, and Benton County and then Albany in here, and then you're just looking at North Albany. So that's one way. So I'm gonna, just so we have more data points, I'm gonna look at this one. And so slide it across, and I usually have a pin or a highlighter and say, here's what's going on with our current market. This list on this one, so this list on the right-hand side, it shows our current numbers, and this is July. So this just came out because it's the numbers through the end of July. On this side, we're comparing it to what happened a year ago, and on this side, we're comparing it to what happened the month prior. So comparing June to July. So that's these percentage changes here. And a lot of times I do ask people if they're more analytical, and if they say no, or if they're engineers, then I really dig into this even more. If I could start sensing the eyes glazing over pretty quick, I don't go into a lot of detail. So I'm going to do not a lot of detail today. Well, kind of the medium version. So this graph is showing what's happened over the last year, and a couple of things that I really want to point out. I know you said you're in the that you really wanted to find that house under 350,000. So I just want to point out our median sales price right now of.
So I'm getting a fixer up.
Yeah. Let's go just Albany, so we get a little less. Yeah, 431. So we're below. So we're going to be number one. That means a couple things. A lot of times, yeah, you need to come to grips that there's going to be some work that you need to do, and or we're going to have some competition for that when we see those houses for 350,000. You can see, in the media, I know that everybody's saying that prices are down, and there's really a couple measures of prices. I think the price per square foot for our area is a little bit more appropriate, but we're about flat. It really did come down this fall, and then you could see over the summer it's really started coming back. And there's not a ton of data points, that's why it's a little spiky. But if we were to look at the whole region, it actually kind of does a big U, and we're about even or just a little bit higher than we were a year ago. Corvallis is up 5 to 8%. So that's how I'm reading this. one of the really interesting things that we look at too is that, everybody's talking about how there's no inventory. And so when we look at the closed sales and the new listings, you can see that both of those are down, 20% or so. So again, there's just less houses on the market right now. And that's why prices have kind of come back up or are about even from a year ago. The other number that I focus on here, in price per, a lot of times I do point out price per square foot. So here, the price per square foot here is 280. And this is a number that a lot of people do look at when they're looking at the listings just to get a sense of things. Sometimes when there's not a lot of photos or you're trying to figure out what's going on, if it's listed for, and there's other factors that play in, but if it's listed for $350 or $400 a square foot, we're kind of expecting it to be on the nicer end. It's turnkey. Anything that's at this 280 or below, a lot of times, there's going to be some things that we're going to need to fix up. We're going to be replaced, some painting, some other things that need to be done. So that can also kind of help you gauge, if you're not seeing a lot in the pictures, that can help you gauge condition some of the time. The last thing that I really focus on to look at demand and what's going on in our market is the list price received. Now, this is the ratio of the list price to the sales price. And so if it was right at 100%, which is pretty dang close, it means a home that's listed for $431,000 is going to sell for $431,000. So it is important to understand that. The other thing, just like I was talking about with the square footage, a lot of times those turnkey properties, the ones that are nicer, that's what's pulling this up and why it's a little above 100%. I'm still seeing some homes sell for 105 to 110% of their listing price. It's a lot of times it is that fixer upper. I noticed even more in our current market that those houses that are dated are the ones that are really staying on the market for longer. And so there are better deals to be had. And those are the ones that are bringing this average down. So again, don't be surprised with those updated homes that they might sell quite a bit more than their list price. And that means we have to be competitive. And I'm going to talk about some strategies of how I help my clients be very competitive. Any questions on this? So that's kind of my medium version of that. All right, I'm going to go back to, all right, great. Well, we talked a little bit about the market. Now let's go back and chat about the buying process. And so this is a booklet that our team has that is pretty good. So I'll go through parts of it. As prepared, I should have gone back through it. So just a little bit about our team. We're with Keller Williams and my biggest brokerage in Lynn and Benton counties, and because we're basically 1 in 4 homes are sold by us, which also means that a Keller Williams agent's on about half the transactions in our area. So we get to see a lot, and it's a really great work. I usually don't go into that much detail, but a little about our team. I really do like working on a team and team dynamic because while I haven't been traveling a lot this year, I do take vacations from time to time, and in years past I have taken longer trips. And so the nice thing is that I've got a wonderful team of agents, and so when I'm out, they can step in and help do showings or write an offer, and also it's really important to get you in there. Sometimes I've got other appointments that day, and I can't get you into the house the same day, and so it's really nice to be able to have Tessa or help show. And as if you're a solo agent, then you just say, hey, it's really great. My team here, I've got a team at Keller Williams, and I'm independent, I work for myself as an independent contractor. I've got a great team to bounce ideas off and help me with showings from time to, you can say whatever. You basically call the office a team if you're a solo agent too. Especially if you're newer to real estate, it's really nice to kind of talk about the office as your team. Let's see. A little bit about team stuff. I usually don't go into a lot of detail on our Y4 C2Ts, even though I should. But Keller Williams has a really strong culture, is kind of what I might say. Our Keller Williams has a really strong culture, and we hold some values very dear. Here's a list of some of those, and you can see that, and hopefully they resonate with you as well. But win-win, we always want to make sure that everybody's coming out ahead, integrity, always doing the right thing. And you can see, teamwork, customers come first, all those important factors. So I'll let you look through that afterwards, because I'm giving you this before. So this is that home buying process sheet that I talked about. So a lot of times I will have this in the packet or booklet and give it to them. And this is really where I spend the bulk of my buyer consultation. So Michael, here's a really good short reference for our home buying process. I'm going to spend a little time on this. You might want to make some notes along the way. So the first step in the process is getting pre-qualified. Now this, I'm going to circle back to that in just a second. Our buyer consultation with a local reputable agent, that's me. And, we're talking about your home needs and preferences. So, we just went through that current market conditions. Hey, man, we're most of the way through this list. So let's go back to the pre-qualified. You said you are working with Jamie at Oregon State Credit Union, and generally she does a really good job and blah, blah, blah. I might say it's always a good idea to get a second opinion. And I do have a couple mortgage brokers that if you want information on it, I can set you up. The research does show that you save about $1,000 by talking to a second broker in general, because you get to shop and everybody's a little bit different. So I might go into more discussion about why pre-qualification is so important, or, you're already pre-qualified, so great. Or, hey, this is really the next step. Here's a list of 3 brokers. Based on what I know about you, I think you're going to connect really well with Jess Walker Wise. And so if it's okay with you, I'll just have her give you a call tomorrow. Okay. And
Yeah, $1,000.
what's that?
Yeah, $1,000.
So, with that one, I try to go with the assumptive close if they're not pre-qualified to say, we have to give 3 lenders out for RESPA compliance. So I have some emails set up, and with kind of the top 4 or 5 lenders that I recommend, but I usually, based on their personality or other things, or who's up next in my rotation, it's, hey, you're going to be a great fit for working with Sean. And so I'll here's this, if I have his card, I'll text you his contact number now, but I'll also ask him if he hasn't heard from me to reach out to you. Okay, Mike? All right, wonderful. Well, once you're pre-qualified, we've got this column all the way down. That means we get to do the fun part, and that's doing our home search. And so there's both you and I are going to be looking for properties. What are you using right now to shop for homes? Have you been on any of the apps or websites?
Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com.
Okay, wonderful. Well, those have most homes that are available. We have a website that's very comprehensive and shows everything across MLSs as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sending you homes as they pop up on our website that I think broadly match your criteria. Now I know there are some things that said, hey, 1,200 square feet might be good. It might be way too small, but I'd rather send you a few more options right now of homes that might fit. But what I'm going to do, and I like to do this a lot, is I'm going to do a real specific search in the moment something hits the MLS that really, I think it narrows down to what you're looking for. I'm going to send you an alert on that property. So I'm not going to bombard you. My other email is like a daily one that you'll get, hey, here's 5 new homes. But I will do a real direct one, because I know you said you want to be in XYZ neighborhood. You really wish you don't want to be on quarter acre plus, and there's just not that many homes that come up in North Albany and under 350,000. So you're going to get it the second it goes on the market. So that's what you can do. Now know that when you use those apps, they're all companies and they're advertising companies, right? And so how they make their money is they sell your information to other agents when you start clicking on buttons and saying, I want to see a property. Just reach out to me whenever you want to see a property so that they're not selling your information to a million other agents and you're starting to get calls and texts from 100 people. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, good. And yeah, just and how I work is, if you see something on one of those websites, the best thing to do is shoot me a quick text with the address. If you're really excited, give me a call, but shoot me a text. And I usually look it up and we'll tell you if there's anything to know about it. Like, hey, this isn't financeable. And, every once in a while we come across some major issues that aren't evident in there. So I can tell you about it. And then, if not, and it looks like a go, or if that's not a deal killer for you, if it's okay that it's in a floodplain or something else, then we'll set up an appointment to go see it as soon as possible. Okay. There are some times that I might, you just said you need to have those must-haves. And, you said you had to have 3 bedrooms when we just talked. So if you start sending me, home with 2 bedrooms, I might question you or kind of push back a little bit on some things that I don't think are right for you because I've either been through them or just looking at it. I know that one of your must-haves. So I might ask you if your plans have changed or your needs have changed, but I'm not trying to. If you want to see the property, we'll go see the property. But there are certain times that I know something's not going to be a good fit. So don't be surprised if I question or bring up something about the house that I think you might not like. So if you can drive by the house too when it comes on the market before we set up our showing, just or look at it on a map, and because every once in a while you do find that there's a neighbor that's not going to work well with. It's on a busy street. So on my end, again, I set up some searches. I'm looking at what's coming on the market every day in the future, and so I'll send you these other houses. We call them free or coming soon, and so I usually send them in a PDF because there's limitations on how I can send out the information. On these ones, they're not public information yet, so you can drive by or walk by on the driveway, but please don't go on to the property. Sometimes there's tenants that don't know it's being sold or other things. And so but drive by and let me know if you're interested in it. Sometimes we can make an offer before it goes on the market. A lot of times we're limited by not having photos or other things, but a lot of times I'll pull up the old photos in the MLS and check them out and see if you're interested. See what information we can get. And the other thing is a lot of times, might say that it's coming in October or something like that. And, that might be so, but yeah. So I'll send you some of those by PDF, watch for those. And again, I'm going to be here to help with showings when I'm going to be out of town. I'll make sure that you're connected with one of the other agents in the office or on the team. All right. The writing the offer part. So again, we're going to find you the house for you. We're going to write the offer. There's a lot that goes into that. And I've got, on our next meeting or as we get into it, we're going to go into my buyer power checklist. And that's kind of a lot for today. So I'm not going to go into too much today, but this is something that would be really good for you to review. It's in the booklet here. I think it's in the booklet too. But anyway, so I created this buyer power checklist saying how you can get your offer accepted when it's a competitive environment. And so here's a copy of our offer so you can see it. I've got it in the booklet. It's 13 pages and there's a lot of definitions. If you want, read through it right now so you can kind of look or read through it when you get home, because when we do make an offer, we're going through it pretty fast and sometimes we've got deadlines and other things. So if you do want to read all the fine print, please do that now. I'm going to hit some of the highlights right now of what's going on in the offer and a lot of the contingencies. Michael, do you know what a contingency is? Have you heard that word before?
I have.
Okay, wonderful. So we're going to talk about a few of the contingencies that are most important right now. Now, we've found the house, we've made a great offer, it's been accepted. I'm calling you and telling you to pop some champagne because that, we're under contract. The house is gonna be yours if you want it. So we do a few things right after that. One of them is deposit earnest money. Generally in our area, that's about 1%. So if we're looking at make an offer on a $400,000 house, we do want to have that $4,000 liquid and ready. We don't have to have the check ahead of time with the offer, but we do need to have you deposit usually within a couple, 2 to 3 business days of the offer being accepted. And that's what legally holds them to you. And the sellers, that they have to sell it to you if you decide to go through the contract. That's that earnest money, that's the deposit, that's what makes that contract legal. Any questions on earnest money?
Yeah.
And I know you say what contingencies mean, but really these contingencies are ways that you can get out of the contract and get your earnest money back. And so that is sometimes refundable, sometimes it's not. And so these contingencies are ways that will be refundable. So we're gonna really the biggest thing is that we're going to do an inspection, and usually we've got 5 to 10 days in our current market. So about a week to 2 weeks, I can usually get an inspector in there within 3 or 4 business days. And so you're going to hire an inspector. This person's working for you. I'll give you some suggestions and names. They spend about 3 hours in the house. I mean, they're looking at everything. I might go into more detail. Account for maybe $500 to $600. Why don't you write that down? So that's going to cost about that. And so that, besides the earnest money, you're going to need to have that money ready. They're looking at country properties. I might start talking about well and septics and some of the inspections for that. And I usually do a quick thing about sewer scopes. One of the other things is an add-on for inspections. The sewer scope, I almost always highly recommend doing. I would just do it when I'm buying a house. So that is going to be an option. That's about another 175 or so. So it's sometimes we can keep it under 500, but a lot of times those inspections can get into the $600 to $1,000 range. Questions on any of that? Once the inspection's back, we're going to be looking at a few different things. If it's broken and needs repair and or a safety issue, a lot of times we're going to request those to be fixed. If it's just worn out, we kind of saw that when we went through. And so a lot of times it's really hard to ask for when it's visible. So a lot of times we can't always negotiate on that. And then we've got, what's the other thing? Anyway, so sometimes we can negotiate. If they had 6 other offers and they accepted ours, they're not going to be in the mood to negotiate. So it's very situation dependent, but sometimes, negotiated $30,000+ off, but it's more reasonable to expect if there's only a couple offers that we might be able to negotiate $1,000 to $5,000 or so of repairs. Again, every situation is different, every seller is different, but a lot of times we can negotiate some things. I generally encourage you to do it as a credit. So you have to bring less money to the closing table and they can fix it afterwards. It's just easier to do that. Some items we'll ask them to fix before closing. Okay, questions on the inspection period. This is by far the biggest contingency. And let's see here. And then I talked about the appraisal, the appraisals, and everything that you're talking about here, it's for their benefit. So this so the condition of the house, the appraisals to help confirm the values in the house there, and also that it's usually a lender requirement, but that's also a contingency. Final underwriting. So after that, after we get through those 2 big things, a lot of times what we're under contract with the escrow period for about 30 to 45 days, sometimes a little bit less, but usually we sign a day or 2 beforehand at this title and escrow company that also holds that earnest money. And usually we don't get the house the same day as signing. Usually it's a day or 2 later. So we'll need some flexibility in your work schedule for that. And then
Don't have the moving truck sitting at the title place.
no.
Yeah.
I have had people do that. And then, and so then our contracts usually say that 5 p.m. on the day of closing. The house is yours, so I'll make sure to get your keys, and we'll get some of those cheesy sold photo signs and get some great photos, okay? Questions about this process?
So this is, since we're role playing, this is a favorite. So the appraisal comes in low, they have to lower the price.
Great question. So in most things, we always have, I usually say we've got 3 main options, right? Number one, we're gonna ask them to lower the price in almost all situations unless it's been pre-negotiated that we're not.
Right.
So they don't have to, but we're going to ask them for that. And we always have the option to terminate and just walk away too, if they won't negotiate, or if you don't like what the appraiser said, or the appraiser's $300,000 off. I've had that happen, and it's not going to go forward. So we've got the option to terminate. We can negotiate or just go forward with it. So yes, we're gonna do that. Sometimes we split the difference on that, but again, we've got the opportunity to. It's a contingency, so we can terminate. You get your earnest money back. However, the cost for the appraisal and those inspections, you don't get that refunded. Great question. I sometimes do go into closing costs here too, especially if it's first time buyer or money's tight. I know. Talk a little bit about this. We do have some charts in here. Let's enter the chat. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of this other stuff. That's really the bulk of my piece on how to do that. So if anybody wants copies of this, we're happy to share. Firepower checklist. Sometimes I go into this. A lot of times I leave it for the second meeting and kind of say, hey, almost always we're in a competitive environment right now. And so in order to make your offer the best, get accepted, here's a list of some ways we do that. And each of them has some different levels of making your offer better. So sometimes we release contingencies or other things. Do we ever not do an inspection? Well, generally not. Almost never, but sometimes we get a recent inspection report from another inspector that I trust, and you might decide that you don't need to do an inspection. And if that's the case, then it makes your offer look better because there's less question from the sellers that you're going to go ahead with that purchase. Now, my goal is to educate you. There's salespeople, there's consultants. I'm the type of person that I'm going to look around and see if there's any red flags that I would want to know as we're going through a house. If there's, I'm seeing dry rot over here, here's something else. I've been through probably a couple hundred inspections now, so I don't know everything. I'm not a good gauge of roofs and some other things, but I know enough to look for some things. So don't be surprised if I point out some flaws. But every home is used. Almost everything's fixable 99% of the time, but I want to be a consultant. I want to let you know what you're getting into and really make sure that we're helping you get the best house for you. So as your agent, I will help do the following. I'm going to help you with the pre-approval process. I'm going to bring my experience and working relationships. Sometimes it's my relationship and my experience that helps you get your offer. I've had several agents say, well, we had a higher offer, but we've worked with you in the past and know that, you're reliable, or, you're usually working with better clients and blah, blah, blah. And that we're going to close. So, one of the main things that I'm also doing as soon as we're getting ready to make an offer is getting you absolutely as much information as possible so we can really find out about the seller needs. So I'm in constant communication with that listing agent. And there's really a lot of pre-negotiations that kind of happen during that time. I'm going to get you information, keep you abreast of what's going on in the market. And let's see here. So I've got a good list to go off of. And so as for that, we have what we call our VIP agreement, and this is basically an agreement to work together. Now, I know at the beginning of the conversation, I said we're going to try and figure out if we want to work together, and so I guess we're kind of at that point here now. But again, I'm going to provide those services, and in return, I expect that you're going to get pre-approved or give me a proof of funds so that I can legally show you homes or ethically show you homes. To allow me to represent you whenever you see a home that you want to view. And again, this is, it's great to go through open houses, to go through and look at new construction and for sale by owners. Actually helped a lot of clients buy for sale by owners. And so whenever you see a property, just let me know, because sometimes there's some things I need to coordinate with the for sale by owner or the building contractor to make sure that you represent it. And I always act as that fiduciary for you. In return, I ask that if I'm going to be committed to you, that you're committed to me. It's almost like dating. We can break up, but I'd love to have that commitment. And I really have enjoyed getting to know you, Michael, and really look forward to working with you. And so let's just solidify it here and sign our buyer broker agreement. Okay, great. I'm going to also go through a few of our, just to get it out of the way, I'm going to go through a few of our, compliance type forms. And so we've got this all in our packet, so we can just scroll through it.
Hey, Ryan.
And yeah.
Hey, real quick, in your buyer agreement, this is something I was kind of curious about. Obviously, getting through the real estate training that I did during the winter, they really push a buyer agreement. But we don't currently do that on our team. How important do you feel this is? I mean, every team has their own protocols. Do you think this really ties in that commitment to one another to lose less potential buyers to leave you when they go call the listing agent when they see a house on a Saturday, they don't call you first? Does this create more conflict with your buyers as a contract, or do you think it ties in that loyalty to continue working together to get those phone calls to make sure that you're involved in the process? What do you think?
Yeah, great question. And every agent does their business a little differently. And so my opinion is with people that you really do want to, you're going to feel out the situation. So number one, investors almost never want to use these because they say, well, if you bring me the deal, I'm going to work with you. But if somebody else brings me a deal, I'm going to work with them. So I can't sign something like this. There's other clients that you can tell are just hesitant to sign stuff or aren't really that commit. They're being non-committal through the process. And so those ones I prep them and I say, hey, I generally spend on average each transaction, 50 to 100 hours for my clients. And so, for that, and to be able to negotiate on your behalf legally, I need to have this agreement that, that I'm going to be compensated for my services. And I might say, it's great. It comes out of the sales price, and 98% of the time, there's just a couple for sale by owners that every once in a while this compensation works a little different. So, but yeah, it's almost no out of pocket money to you because it comes out of the purchase price. So that's not getting back to your question. I've got a really good seminar for you. It really, OAR did one about 2 weeks ago, and I've got a copy of the YouTube replay about the importance of buyer broker agreements. So I would strongly recommend kind of going through that, because these are some people talking about the importance. So as much as possible, you do want to give them. There's something about signing that does in people's head and legally, kind of, even though these don't have a ton of legal legs to stand on, it really does get them committed to you. And there's certainly times that have come up and talking to the reviewing broker where it's like, or honestly, I don't remember the situation, but there was one complaint came up and they asked if we had a buyer broker agreement with this client. Oh, we were doing some marketing for some clients and sending out postcards to people. And somebody complained about it and said, oh, it's a fake one. These aren't real people, and we're like, no, we do. And they, the realtor commission asked if we had a buyer broker agreement with people to kind of confirm that we're really working with somebody. So it is important. I would encourage you to educate yourself on the importance and do them as much as possible. But feel people out. If they seem uncomfortable signing stuff, a lot of times I say, after a showing or two, I'm going to ask you to sign this. Or if they give much pushback, well, I'm not quite ready to commit. You ask those exploratory questions. Oh, what's holding you back, or what are you nervous about, or so you can do some objection handling. But I don't push too hard, and I basically say, after a showing or two, I'm going to ask you to do this. So yeah, it's really is good practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Ryan?
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I always tell people when I'm asking them to sign a buyer broker agreement, whether it's this one or the buyer representation agreement in ORIF or ORIAR one, that if they become unhappy with me as a broker at any time and don't want to work with me anymore, I, don't want to have people being really unhappy with me, that I hope we can discuss the problems and see if we can straighten it out. But if we can't, then I'm happy to release them from this agreement and we can go our separate ways. But
That's perfect. Yeah. So that
protect me and
kind of goes
protect.
dating comment too, hey, if we do need to break up, it's not going to be a big deal, but I need, just give me a chance to fix the problem, and if it doesn't work, then I'm be happy to release you from it. I've released a couple people from buyer broker. Do that, but yeah, well, I've said it to a few people. When you're working with after a few hundred people, there's certainly going to be some situations where you realize that don't see eye to eye, or changing goals. People ended up moving to Medford and want to do that. So there are OREF versions and OAR versions. If you want to look through those ones look a little bit more legal and contractual. This one's feels a little fluffier. And so for me, I kind of like that it doesn't feel like, oh, you're signing a contract. Another best practice in the black folder that we use for this, we've got a lot of times I'll have the VIP and I'll pull it out then and explain what it is, and then keep going through and not having them sign. And what I'll do then is I'll start going through some of the compliance documents and the acknowledgement disclosure, and say, hey, I got to show you all these forms. I'm just going to get this out of the way since it looks like we'll be working together. Here's what each of them are. We got the real estate agency one, and I circle on here. Here's where it talks about the duties of a buyer's agent. So at working for you, if we're going to work together, then, I am acting in a fiduciary capacity. You know what that means. So I do that. Talk about, I've already prepped that we do half the transactions on average. There's one Keller Williams agent on every other deal here in the Lynn and Benton counties. And so there's a lot of times where there might be another broker in our office. And so I kind of give them a little heads up on this. I'm still representing you. And even if it's a listing of our team, I'm still representing you. I never represent two buyers trying to buy the same house, or a buyer and seller in the same transaction. So luckily that don't have to cross that bridge too often, but we'll talk about ways to avoid it. But this is just saying that I'm 100% committed to you as a buyer's agent, even if it's another Keller Williams listing. Here's the buyer advisory. You can go online and take a look at that. Just a pamphlet that the Oregon Association of Realtors puts out. And I know I said, hey, here's the 13-page contract. Again, I just have it in here so you can take a look at it. We've got our smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarm requirements, since those are laws. starting to come up in transactions quite a bit. Here's a really great reference for, local utility providers, but I'll send you a list right before closing so you can get those set up real easily. We also have this list of business partners with KW. As we go, I'm happy to help recommend, inspectors or contractors or other things. This is generally a pretty good list. I've kind of got my own list as well, but at least this is a good start with some people that advertise with our office. And then I've got the lead-based paint pamphlet, and if you're buying a home before 1978, then this applies. If not, we don't have to worry about it. So that's what's here. And so I've got this acknowledgement disclosure. Let me have you sign this saying that you've received all these things. Again, here's the acknowledgement or disclosed limited agency. Again, that's the deal that says, hey, there might be another Keller Williams agent, but I'm still working on your behalf. It's just my reviewing broker, or basically our compliance person that oversees both sides of the transaction. And let's see here. And then I've got a couple other quick disclosures. I usually have them look at the electronic funds disclosure and the advisory about recording devices, and I give them a quick spiel on those. And then here's our contract to work together and just do 12 months and usually put in 2.5%. But yeah, question. It's becoming a lot more transparent as far as buyer agent commissions, and buyer agent commissions could certainly go down. And so just like a listing agent where you're negotiating for your compensation, it's going to become more and more of a thing over the next few years. I mean, Zillow and Redfin, I think, are all showing the buyer agent commission now. That's new in the last year or two, from what I could tell. So that, and some MLSs are now allowing listing agents to offer $0 in compensation to a buyer's agent. So that's a new thing, and some MLS and stuff. It's not going to be a given that we're offered compensation, and so this is also a good time to start having that conversation about what you make, or why it's 2.5% or 3%. We're on it. So we're pretty dang close to 11, aren't we? That's the bulk of what I want to go through. Questions on anything else in my process? The big thing to take away from this is I've got, unfortunately, I work a little bit more with engineers and investors and more analytical people, since I am as well. And so this is, unfortunately, I do too long of one and not quite as friendly and cheery. Everybody's got a different one. And so I encourage you to sit in with other buyer agents on their consultations. The other thing is that Bold's going to start here real soon, and Bold always puts together a really great one with some slides and everything else, and it's much more interactive as well. So again, this is what I go over, but I've got tons of room for improvement, and the biggest thing is always, as we're explaining things, we're talking about the benefit to them, and that way they know we're working on their behalf and the reasons for things. Okay, I think that's most of what was in here too. Do you guys want to see that YouTube video of that class on buyer broker agreements? Anybody interested in that?
Yeah, if you don't mind sending that to me, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
I gotta bomb off and do a call real quick on an inspection, but I appreciate your time today, Ryan, and I had some good notes, so thank you very much. That's
Thanks for joining me, Bill.
Yeah.
Belinda, any questions or feedback? Anything that you wanted to pipe in that you do that's always winning procedure?
I just thought it was good presentation. Thank you for going over what you do, and it was very helpful.
Good. Well, thanks for joining. Michael, I'm going to shut down the Zoom then, and we will talk to y'all soon here. Okay. Meeting.